All right, very good afternoon, dear students. I'm here with this particular lecture video on compensation management, which is a very important and a very integral function, which is also called payroll management and administration in today's parlance. So, in this particular lecture video, we will be discussing about the role, the objectives, and the different types of compensation that is paid, and then a lot of benefits and allowances that that employees do get from the various organizations of the work. So let's look at in detail what we have in store with compensation management. So compensation management is designing and implementing a total compensation package with a systematic approach to providing value to employees in exchange for work performance. So in ordinary parlance, it would mean for every effort and contribution that an employee makes to the organization in order to help the organization to achieve its objectives and goals and helping the organization to implement its strategy. So, what does the organization give to them in return? So, in return is what they are going to compensate. So, compensation management would be all emoluments that are paid in cash or in kind, monetary or non monetary, for all the services that are rendered by an employee to the organization at different levels of work that they do within the organization is what they call as compensation management. And compensation may achieve several purposes. It could be used in recruitment, where compensation, at the time when we are advertising for jobs in the organization or looking out for right employees to come and join the organization and work, we often talk about the salary or the package, and then the benefits that is going to be offered to them by the company. And so based on that, that becomes a very attractive point on the basis of which employees will apply for jobs in the organization. Secondly, it's very useful when it comes to job performance, when we look at appraising the performance of existing employees within the organization, and then all those employees whose performances are matching standards or are above standards become eligible for compensation. It is used for promotion, because at the time when they get promoted to higher level jobs within the organization, they get a higher compensation and higher package. So that is obviously a motivator for them to do well for the in their respective jobs, and also look out for good opportunities that comes within the organization. So, and if an organization is paying the employees very well, and if the compensation package is up to the industry standards and it's equivalent to what other companies are offering, there is no reason why an employee would be quitting, and that also will express their satisfaction that they have towards the job. So it's a very integral component of the HR function, and it's directly or indirectly related in trying to enhance the other functions. And compensation, definitely, the pay package definitely has a very big role to play in the management of employees within the organization. So, what are the objectives of compensation management? Yes, the first point is very important. It is to recruit and retain very good employees. There are two things, twin benefits of recruitment. First is to ensure that we are able to attract the right candidate by uh, by showing them the compensation package that we have, or by attracting them by luring them with the package that we have. That is one thing. The second is to ensure that good employees who perform and contribute to the organization, continue to work for the organization and do not quit or do not switch to other organizations. So that definitely happens with compensation, because one of the reasons why employees quit organizations is for the factor that other companies are paying more, and that's where they decide to switch. Second, a good compensation that is paid to employees will definitely increase and maintain and improve and develop their morale and motivation, and they will contribute more earnestly to the organization. Thirdly, it is useful. The administration part of compensation management is very useful when it comes to determining who gets what pay, and then what level uh, is the pay fixed, and then what group of jobs get very similar kind of pay packages. So, fixing compensation based on compensable factors, and then deciding what jobs in the organization and at which hierarchy will they be eligible for certain levels of pay. All of these are discussions, or all these are decisions that we make, when it comes to compensation management or payroll management. And fourthly, yes, it is used as a reward for good performance, and thereby ensuring that good performers within the organization are compensated, good performers will be promoted, and they will become eligible for higher levels of compensation, and then obviously that will be able to uh, give job satisfaction for employees in the long run. So, compensation management is an integral part of the human resource management function, which helps in motivating the employees and improving the organizational effectiveness. So, it's a very win win kind of a situation where an organization has its own goals and objectives that it wants to fulfill, and thereby it draws up a strategy. And if your strategy needs to be implemented very effectively, you need very efficient employees to come. So, which means you need the best of the employees who are available in the job market. And if you want to attract the best of the job employees, you want the best employee to work for your organization, then you must ensure that you are able to pay the best compensation that's there in the industry and in the market. So thereby more and more talented, more and more uh, what do you say, more and more skilled employees, knowledgeable employees, employees with a very superior kind of talent will be able to apply for jobs in your organization and will continue to work. So, the effectiveness of compensation is in attracting and retaining talent, as we discussed, and then motivating the talent for better performance. And then, thirdly, we can do that in a very effective manner if compensation is very well designed and there's no confusion, there's no overlapping in terms of gets what kind of pay and what time do they become eligible for pay, salary management, incentive management, benefit management, allowance management. All of that, if it is very neatly designed, then the administration part of it can make sure that everything goes on pretty well, and then you have the right employee getting the right compensation in the organization. So when you look at what compensation can do, compensation looks at three different dimensions. The first dimension is institutional effectiveness, which is the benefit that the organization is able to get. There are two things that an organization benefits by ensuring that they have a very good, when they design a very good compensation, management practice, and then ensure they are able to pay the right employee the best pay. One is in terms of attracting talent, as we discussed. You're able to get the right candidate to apply for jobs in your organization. Secondly, when your organization has a very good compensation package and it pays equivalent to what others are paying, or it's paying, or they're paying superior to what others in the industry pay, then they are called the pay masters in the organization. So thereby, the image of your organization as a very good organization, or as a well-paying organization definitely goes up. The second thing, for employee management, to motivate and retain the staff within your organization so that you are able to arrest attrition, you're able to ensure that more number of people do not quit the organization. So one way by which you can retain your employees in the organization is by ensuring that you're giving them a good package. And secondly, we in today's organizations, we have something called performance based you know packages, which is performance based packages and productivity based packages, so which are basically compensation is decided on the basis of performance of an employee. So when an employee performs higher, he or she becomes eligible for higher pay. So it's very benefit oriented, it's reward oriented, because every employee can determine how much of a pay packet, or what he can take home at the end of the day, purely depends on his or her performance. The third aspect, when it comes to legal compliance, this is to ensure that we create something called an internal equity, which means jobs of the same kind do not get different pay. So that is when there will be a lot of difficulties among people, or among employees, and there could be a lot of disharmony and among the employees. So to ensure that jobs of the same kind, jobs that require similar knowledge, jobs that require similar skill, jobs that require similar effort are paid more or less the same. So we ensure that, and then between hierarchies also, we also ensure that there is a hierarchical difference in terms of higher pay and lower pay. And then if you along with determining pays, we use a technique called job evaluation, by which we are able to identify the compensable worth of every job in terms of monetary value. How much does every job contribute to the overall uh, earnings of the organization? So based on that is how we determine pay packages in terms of wages and salaries for different jobs and different hierarchies. And if that part is very well done, so that payroll management or compensation management can be taken care very efficiently, and it can be implemented in a very cost effective manner. So that's the part when we look at legal compliance. So those are the three dimensions. So institutional effectiveness, there's employee management, and there is legal compliance. So, what is the relationship? This particular slide talks about commitment, employee commitment, and then compensation. So, if we want to discuss this point as to is there a relationship between employee commitment and then compensation? Does an employee commit more and then show more contribution in terms of knowledge, skill, effort, and ability towards the organization if they are compensated high? Or do they contribute less because the compensation is less? So there are typically four different scenarios that we can possibly see in organizations. One first type of organizations are those organizations that pay very high, but you have employees expressing very low commitment. So these are organizations called the hired guns. So generally, you have new entrants into the industry or new startups which come into the industry, and they want to really compete very quickly with all with those already established organizations. So, and if they want to attract best talent, so the challenge for them is they will not be able to get the very get the most experienced employee to work for them because they are their organization is just started, and they do not have a brand name, and they do not have any sort of work that they've done in the market. So there is no reason as to why somebody who's very talented and very experienced would want to work for a startup. So that is the reason why startups, in order to ensure that they are able to grow very fast and compete with some established organizations in the industry, hire very experienced and very talented employees, and that happens only through high compensation. And so the reason why somebody comes, a highly talented employee comes and works in this kind of an organization is purely because of money and not for anything else. So that's where those kind of organizations. Uh, that's the scenario with them. So they hire employees more as hired guns. Secondly, when you're looking at an organization that pays well, and you also have employees expressing very high level of commitment, and so those are organizations that are very professionally run organizations. So if you see very successful organizations in any industry today, you will find them falling into that bracket because that's where they hire professionals. So here are a bunch of employees who work for this organization not because of the money that they pay, but they're also equally committed to the strategy of the organization, committed to the work that it does, committed to the vision and the mission, and they feel that they are equal contributors when it comes to the growth of the organization. So on the other part, what you need to understand, it's not just money that's making them very highly committed. It's also about a lot of other factors about top management's involvement and decision making, participation, allowing employees to participate in decision making, jobs that are very well designed, and then very good work culture or employee engagement practices, very high degree of organizational justice. So all of this could be a reason. So it's not just compensation that makes employees to be more committed. So it's also about the work environment and what they are able to experience overall. So in those kind of organizations is where you will definitely see compensation also being very high, and so that's where you will have organizations very professionally run and also hiring professionals who work in the organization. The third type of organization that you have is an organization where employees show very high commitment, but the organization pays them very low. So these are employees who work out of self-interest, and these are employees who are willing to work for the organization because they believe in the vision and the mission of the organization, and they believe that they have a greater cause. They look at it more as a vocation rather than working for in terms of money. So those are the third type of organizations where it has a family-oriented organization. There is a better family connect between the top management and the employees, and the top management very often communicates to the employees about the reason why they have started this organization and the reason why they are not looking at profits, because of which um, because of those higher earnings they would be able to pay a higher compensation to employees. So it's because of that nature is why employees also show that equal commitment, and they very often exhibit to the organization that they are not here for money, but they're here for serving the organization because they believe in what the organization stands for and what it is doing for its customers in the market. So that's the third scenario of the family oriented organization. On the fourth scenario, you have an organization which pays very low, and you also have employees working with low commitment. So this is an organization that treats employees more or less as commodities or less like objects. So there's no emotional attachment, there is no commitment that anybody shows. So these are just for the time being, employees get to work in this organization. So there is pretty much nothing that they expect. So most often it could be the first job for these employees because nobody else was there to hire them. So they got into this organization. So they want to just gain some experience, get that a little experience and exposure, and with which they want to apply for a different kind of an organization. So the point that you need to understand here is you cannot expect higher degrees of commitment from employees if you are exploiting them and you do not pay them very well. So it's very important that you also need to keep the trends in the market. You also need to keep whatever is the going rate of what other companies in the industry are paying, and accordingly you should be able to formulate a strategy whereby you are also able to tap opportunities in the market, be able to manufacture good goods and services, and increase your revenue earnings, and thereby be able to share that big part with the employees. Because an employee who is very satisfied with compensation definitely will show very high levels of commitment. So it depends on how an organization looks at this particular uh, function of compensation management and deals with that very effectively. Now, this slide is very important because it talks about the different types of compensation that is paid to employees in the organization. So, when you look at the compensation system, we broadly have two broad categories. One is called direct compensation, the other is called indirect compensation. So, the basic difference between a direct compensation and indirect compensation is direct compensation is directly related to the job that you do, right? And indirect compensation is not related to the job that you do. So if you look at direct compensation, it can be further classified into base pay as well as merit pay. Base pay is what you get for the job that you do. So it can be again further classified into wages and salaries. Wages are what you pay for blue collared workers or those who are working on the shop floor of the organization. And salary is what you pay to administrative, clerical, and other executive and managerial positions within the organization, so called the white collared workers. And then you have merit pay. Merit pay is based on the performance and the productivity that you are able to show in on your job. So you get your base pay irrespective of whether uh, you're highly performing or not performing. But merit pay is definitely based on your performance. So if your performance is high, you get a higher merit pay, and if your performance is low, you get a lower merit pay. And then you've got incentive pays. This is for productivity. So there are different types of incentives that are usually rolled out in organizations. So it could be in the form of a bonus for higher performance. It could be on the basis of a commission that you are able to earn because of the number of sales that you've made or you've increased your productivity. And so for every higher sale that you do, you get a higher level of compensation. There is a piece rate for productivity. There is a time rate for productivity. And there is profit sharing when the whole department or an organization reaches a certain very high, level of standard that an organization has placed for them to achieve. And if collectively all of them have been able to reach, or as a department or as a team, if they've been able to reach, then they get something called a team profit, or they get a departmental profit, which can be shared among all the contributors who did that particular project or job. And then you have low cost and you also have free meals as such. So all of these are and you have shift bonuses which are generally given again to based on your incentive. So these are all calculated on the basis of your productivity and your performance. So deferred pay, this will be in the form of stock options. We call these as employee stock options. This is mostly given for higher level employees, managerial and top management cadre, who along with the salary will also be able to get certain shares of a company, will also be able to hold certain stocks of a company. So it is through a plan called the employee stock options. So all of these are very much a part of compensation that is directly related to what an employee does. Coming to the indirect compensation part, we have protection programs. These are mostly social security based programs. This is given irrespective of what the employee does, whether you perform or you do not contribute to the productivity of the organization. It doesn't matter. These are programs or benefits that are eligible to all the employees purely because of them being members or them being employees of an organization. So social security measures will include both white collar workers and blue collar workers, and this will be medical allowances and benefits, then insurances, life insurance, then you will have provident fund, and you'll have pension funds, and then loans that are given to employees. So all of these are to ensure that apart from the earnings that you are able to get from the job that you do, you're also eligible for certain social security benefits that will help you to tide over all those difficult issues that you face in your life or post your retirement once you are out of active employment. And pay for time not worked. These are during at the time when you are off the vacation. So these are paid leaves that you also get. You also get. Employees will be eligible for vacations. So when they are on vacation, their salaries will not be deducted, which means those are paid leaves. There are medical leaves, and there are also casual leaves. So an employee, very often in many organizations, is eligible to get about 10 to 15 days of casual leave. So they will be able to get that sort of a benefit. So all of these are there, and medical leave and sick leave, as I spoke about. So all of these are paid leaves. So at the time when you are ill or you are hospitalized and you're unable to come, your salaries will not be deducted. You will be getting that, as part of the direct indirect compensation benefit or the package of the organization. So these are the different types of compensation. So you need to understand. What is the direct and what comes under direct compensation, what is indirect, and what comes under indirect compensation. So furthermore, in terms of explanation, so it refers to monetary benefits offered and provided to employees in return for the services that they render for the organization. So the monetary benefits will usually include a basic salary, house rent allowance, conveyance, leave travel allowance, medical reimbursements, and then special allowances, gratuity, provident funds. So all of these are paid to employees at regular intervals. So which is a part of your regular salary itself. Every month in the pay packet that you get, uh, these are your components which are included as allowances, and that's how your pay packet. Um, that's how your pay. I mean, all of this is included to make that gross pay for your for your pay packet. Indirect compensation, it refers to all the non-monetary benefits that are offered to employees in lieu of the services provided by them to the organization. This could be paid leave, this could be getting a car, a company car for your transportation, medical aids and assistance, insurances for self and family. So you get company insurances, then you get leave travel allowance, then you get retirement benefits, then you get um, benefit of a holiday home where you can go out on vacation with your family and spend, and you will be getting a certain amount of money from the organization for spending for those kind of expenses. So all of these are indirect compensation, not directly related to performance and productivity. So the constituents or components of a pay packet. You have wage and salary, as I told you. So that's a part. So wages are paid to blue collar workers, and salary is paid to to white collar workers. And this is salary and wages for jobs are based on compensable factors. And these compensable factors are based on the job evaluation process that we conduct in the organization on the basis of uh, what work is being done by a respective job and how much does it contribute to the organization in terms of earnings. And then we compare that with the rest of the other jobs and find out what is the contribution that your job gives to the organization, what is the contribution that other jobs at the same level or at different levels within your organization give to the overall earnings of the organization. Based on that, they are decided as to in which pay band or in which pay bracket they have to be, your job has to be placed, and then which jobs will get higher pay and which jobs will get lower pay as such. Incentives, as I told you, incentives are paid for employees along with the wages and salaries. Incentives are paid which is linked to the a higher performance and productivity that they do, and this could be related to the amount of time, extra time or overtime that they spend in trying to produce something, or a number of pieces that they produce in terms of a piece rate. So we have all of those calculations in mind. There are different incentive plans that are there in production, like the Halsey and Rowan's plan. There is a time rate plan, there is a piece rate plan. So there are different plans that are available. So while you're designing incentive packages uh, for blue collared workers and factory workers, so you can adopt any of these plans and then apply those formulas, and then you will be able to know what how what you can pay to these employees for showing higher levels of productivity. Fringe benefits, these are other than the regular incentives that are part of your internal indirect compensation, other than the regular benefits that you're eligible because you are a member of an because you're an employee of the organization. At the top level, at the top level and the middle of the uh, top of the middle level, employees of senior executives will be eligible for fringe benefits. So this will include a lot of benefits like medical benefits, accident relief, and recreation facilities, and company car, and then gymnasiums or creches, or use of company swimming pools or sporting facilities. Now all of these could be fringe benefits because these are extras that are given to you other than the ones that are related to your job. And then top level management will be eligible for a lot of perquisites like company car, club membership, free residential accommodation, paid holidays, and then employee stock options. So these are perquisites to make the package a lot more attractive, because not everything can be given in terms of money. So there are perquisites to make your job very attractive, and to also ensure that high level executives will be able to work for your organization because your organization has a very good perquisite plan, which is much higher and more superior than anybody else or any other company in the industry. So, when you design a very good compensation package, yes, it has benefits both for employers as well as for the employees. For the organization, the benefit is that your brand image improves, which is a part of employer branding, and all over the market, you will be recognized as a very good paymaster, as a very high paying organization. So, very uh, talented and very high performing and highly experienced employees who want to work in those kind of organizations that really pay them well and take care of them well, and also have very good fringe and perquisite benefits that are offered to them. Secondly, to retain talent. Third is to motivate employees, to ensure that you're very consistent in your compensation, and then you also provoke a lot of healthy competition, because when you have very good performance and productivity oriented incentive plans in your organization, then more and more employees in the organization will be able to take that up as a challenge and then be able to contribute more, so that they become eligible for for a higher incentive and benefit program. And for employees, yes, perquisites and other than what you earn from wages and salaries, fringe benefits, perquisites, paid holidays, casual leave, medical leaves, and all the insurance and provident fund gratuity bonus. All of these are very useful, not just for you but for your family, because you can spend it on your family and then ensure you are able to help your family members enjoy certain luxuries and certain benefits and comforts of life. So it's a very good tool for work-life balance. It is used. It helps you. It improves your self-esteem, because when you feel that when you are able to use these benefits and services, avail these benefits and services, so obviously you feel very good and feel better. Your organization has provided all of this, so there's very high self-esteem, and that can convert itself into higher performance, and then higher levels of job satisfaction can also be seen, and it can definitely improve the quality of life, because employees will be eligible and they will be able to use these luxuries and comforts, and whereby they may experience a very high standard of living and have very good choices and options to enjoy comforts in life on the basis of the cost, on the basis of benefits that are provided by the organization. So what are the factors affecting compensation? The factors are, these are what we call as compensable factors. So you're compensated and your package is largely determined on the basis of the mental requirements. An employee who does his job needs to mentally apply his mind in while doing the job. So for your mental requirement, you're paid a certain amount. For your physical requirement, when you do physically have to do your job, especially for blue collared workers, when they have to lift, when they have to shift something, when they have to operate using heavy machines, so on. So they are paid for physical requirements. Thirdly, for skills that you have, both technical skills, managerial skills, administrative skills, and business skills. So you are paid for those skills. Fourthly, for the responsibility levels that you hold, the role and the decision making that you take at different levels in your job, as it is required as part of your strategy. So for role, responsibility, and decision making, so all of that, you paid a certain amount of money. And then for the working conditions, so when you work abroad or when you work in hazardous conditions, especially for factory workers when they work in factories which let out a lot of noise, or it's very difficult to work with high sounding machines, or when there is smoke and dust and so on, and if there is a lot of risk involved. So compensation is also keeping in mind the level of risk that is associated while doing the job. So these are the compensable factors. So we apply this very differently for blue collared and white collared workers within the organization. Furthermore, compensation is also based on the organization's affordability. So there is nothing called a fixed pay. There are industry standards or benchmarks that are there that decides this is the minimum pay or this is the going rate for these jobs and for these skills in the market. But nothing stops an organization from paying more because it depends on the earning capacity of the organization. Secondly, it can depend on manpower planning when you do the HRP and then you are deciding the number of vacancies that needs to be filled up and what kind of jobs you've created and what is the nature of employees that you want to hire for your organization based on your job description and specification. So based on that, if you want to attract the finest and the most talented employees in the organization, then you must be able to attract them to your organization with very good compensation package. Secondly, there's also most incentive plans are basically dependent on productivity, as I told you. So if you're in the sales job, it's on the basis of the number of sales that you do, and if it's a production job, then it's on the basis of the number of units that you produce. So we mix that up with outcomes that we would want to achieve as such. Then second point, the next point is, yes, it depends on the market rate. As I told you, what is the going rate for a particular skill or for an employee with a particular degree. And then last of all, it depends on economic conditions within the country. So if your country is going through a certain boom, then obviously industries will also be able to earn well, and then definitely they will be able to organizations which are part of this industry, and because of their earning capacities, they will be able to pay higher levels of compensation to employees. So it depends on economic conditions and how well your industry and how well the market is responding to all the efforts that you are taking as an organization to reach out to them by higher sales and higher revenues as such. So when you're designing compensation structure, these are a few things that we keep in mind. As I've told you repeatedly, as in this part of this lecture, of the role of job evaluation. Job evaluation is where every job that is designed in the organization is is compared with the other jobs in the organization to find out its relative worth and earning capacity and contribution that it makes to the overall revenues of the organization. So every job is compared, relatively compared, and then they find out what is every job contributing to the organization, and based on that they are put on a hierarchy, and then pay scales or pay packets are designed accordingly. So for that purpose is where we need to go into the job description, because we need to know what are the reasons for which we are paying. So when we looked at the compensable factors, are we paying for mental requirement? Are we paying for skill? Are we paying for effort? Are we paying for risk that an employee takes? Are we paying for the responsibility that is executed by the employee? So what is the reason for which you are paying an employee a certain sum of money? right? And those requirements are what we call as compensable factors, and those are the skills, the knowledge, skill, ability, experience, and acumen is what an employee will have to use when he or she does the job, and that's the reason, and that is what you are going to pay them for. The compensation is for what they are contributing from their end to do the job well. So that's where you need both the elements of the job description and specification to help you out. And then time and motion studies are done basically to fix incentives based on productivity. And then we do market surveys to find out what's the going rate and what is the minimum wage or minimum salary that needs to be paid, and what is paid across industries, what is paid across states. So those are definitely another point that we need to keep in mind. Demand for jobs and the supply of jobs, demand and supply equations, and the number of employees, candidates who are available in the job market will also determine the rates at which compensation has to be paid. So if there is high supply of employees, obviously there are more employees who are willing to work at any pay that you're going to offer. But if the supply of labor is less, so you're having fewer employees, so your pool is very limited. So if you want to attract, so there are more companies who are also trying to attract that limited pool of candidates or employees. So if you want to get the right guy, then you must be able to increase your pay. So only if you're able to have a high pay packet and attract them, only then they will be able to apply. So it depends on demand for jobs and the availability and the supply of labor in the industry. In the last part, we look at industry-wise benchmarking because every industry goes through its surveys, employment surveys, and based on that, they're able to fix rates. And then and there's something called a minimum wage, so below which no organization can pay employees. I mean, even if the supply is very high, and then you cannot exploit employees because you cannot pay them minimum wages. So there is something called a minimum wage, and anything above the minimum wage is what is always recommended. So organizations or industries will always recommend something called a living wage, which is much higher than the subsistence level or the minimum pay that is paid to the employee. What are the laws that govern the pay structure? Yeah, there are definitely a good set of labor legislations that take care of proper wage administration, because not every organization or not every employer is very good enough to understand this and then thereby manage it or effectively implement it for the employees by ensuring that they get the right pay. So there are also bad employers, or there are also bad organizations which exploit labor and do not pay the right pay for the right employees. So that is where, to ensure that there is uniformity, to make sure that everybody is able to comply to a certain standard, is where we have a set of laws that take care of ensuring that the employees' rights are guarded and employees get their right to due, and the right pay for the right employee is secure. So we have the Minimum Wages Act of 1936 in India, which takes care of the minimum wage that needs to be minimum. There are two legislations. I'm sorry. The first legislation is called the Payment of Wages Act of 1936. Payment of Wages Act takes care of when wages need to be paid, what is the time at which it needs to be paid. So fixing a particular time frame, and then money and wages has to be paid in terms of money and not in terms of kind, when you can make deductions. So all of these specifications are there in a legislation called the Payment of Wages Act of 1936. The second legislation is called the Minimum Wages Act of 1948, which does its industry-wise benchmarking, does its wage surveys, and then accordingly fixes minimum rates for different jobs across industries and across regions, and thereby giving a certain minimum standard for organizations to ensure that this is the minimum pay that they will have to pay as such. Then you have the Income Tax Act that takes care of taxable incomes, tax deducted at sources, and all the provisions that are part of it. Then you have the Equal Remuneration Act to make sure that there is no discrimination that is made in terms of wages that are paid. You cannot discriminate to employees on the basis of caste, color, creed, gender, and then thereby give different pay. A different pay for different groups of employees working in the organization, and then a host of social security measures. So you have the payment of the laws that take care of uh, you know gratuity. So we have the Gratuity Act, laws that take care of the bonus. We have the Bonus Act of 1965. Then you have the payment of gratuity. and Miscellaneous Act, which takes care of you know provident fund deductions, and then pension, what amount of money goes in for pension. So Provident Fund, Miscellaneous Act, the Gratuity Act, the Bonus Act, all of these are a host of legislations that ensure that social security aspect of the employee is taken care, so that after the employee uh, comes out of active employment, when an employee superannuates, and then for the number of years he has worked for the organization, so he or she has to be able to be eligible to get a certain amount of money through provident fund. Gratuity is paid for all those employees who have completed 5 years of continuous service, and then bonus is paid every year, uh, you know for the contribution that they make for the organization. And you have pension, a certain amount of money that is given to them as part of pension after they retire. So every month they will be able to get a certain amount of money to that can be used for their own personal expenses, that they incur. So these are the components of a pay packet. You have something called a base salary. Second, you have dearness allowance. This is increased year after year to tide over your cost of living. Thirdly, you have get a house rent allowance to pay for the accommodation that you are taking in. So HRA will differ from state to state and city to city. Then we have a city compensatory allowance for you to take care of the hardship of conveyance within the city. And then you have other allowances like the shift allowance, you get a uniform allowance, education allowances for your children. So all these are allowances that are included as part of your pay package. So all of that is what ultimately goes on to become your take home. And there will be deductions. So you will have to a certain amount of contribution has to be made for provident fund, certain amount of contribution has to be made for your pension. So all of that will be deducted accordingly, and there's something called a take home. And take home is your net pay that you will be able to spend as disposable income. That based on the earnings that you have secured for that particular month. So as we discussed about incentives are also there as part of the plan. So you get time-based incentives, you get task-based incentives, you get piece-based incentives. So this is basically directly related to the performance and productivity that you are able to show in your organization when you do something, when you contribute beyond standards or beyond those normal acceptable levels of productivity. So social security, as I touched upon this point, contribution for provident fund, contribution for employees, state insurance, ESI. ESI will give you benefits of medical allowance, sickness allowance, and then for maternity, and then for dependence allowance. So in case the employee dies, and then for all the other kind of expenses that you will be able to incur as part of employee. So ESIs will take care of that, not just for the employee who's working, but also for his family. Then you have the payment of bonus every year. You get the bonus that is calculated, which is a certain portion that the employers will have to share with the employees for a good productivity that they've been able to achieve. A payment of gratuity is given out of gratitude for the number of years that an employee has worked. So, if you have worked for an organization for a straight continuous period of 5 years, you become eligible for gratuity. So, that's a certain amount of money that is paid to an employee at the time when he resigns from the organization or he superannuates. We calculate and give him gratuity accordingly. These are some of the trends that we see in the organization. Yes, these are some of the things that are right now seen in many organizations. You will get group medic claim, which is family corp insurance is given by your corporate, is very common today. So not just the employee but the family members are also covered by it. There's personal accident insurance scheme whereby if anything goes wrong with the employee, so he's eligible for that. And then there's company leased accommodation. So many employees will be able to live in quarters or will be able to live in apartments that are leased out by the company. So employees get to live and avail all those facilities. Then you have recreation facilities, ATM facilities, and you get corporate credit cards that are given because you're an employee of the organization. You're also eligible. You also get club membership, which is you can make use of the facilities of the organization. And then if your organization is a signatory of a certain established popular resort or a recreation club, then employees will be able to spend time over there and rejuvenate themselves or use those facilities during weekends and so on. So these are some additional you know facilities that you will be able to enjoy. Organizations have also included the work-life balance component in the compensation structure. Today we have flexi time wherein employees pick up a certain amount of time that they would want to come and take care of their family commitments as well. There's compressed work weeks, so instead of working for 5 days in a week, you work for 3 days in a week. You finish your work and then your 2 days you can always take off. So you can do that. You can do job sharing. Jobs can be shared with 2 or 3 members within the team. You can do telecommuting. With work from home concepts are available. Part-time work, there's modified retirement, which is early retirement. You finish your jobs within a certain number of years, and then you can take early retirement and voluntarily retire, and then you want to spend that number of years in any other kind of work. Employee assistance, and there's child care, crash facilities, elder care assistance is also provided by many organizations today. So all of these are um, to accommodate the larger than life aspect of an employee, not just look at an employee as just a member of the organization and you work for the organization. Today organizations today understand that there is far more that they have to do, and there are many organizations that have definitely come out into the market, and they've tried to expand the kind of range of facilities that they offer to the employees. So that in a way has helped employees to stay more committed and experience job satisfaction and have that very perfect balance that they're able to establish between work and home. And these are some of the benefits that Google offers to its employees. So there are physical fitness. So they have they enjoy very good gymnasiums, spas, jacuzzis are there, and then they have multi cuisine restaurants that are there in in their offices. Then you have these rejuvenating clubs. You get massages over there. You get dry cleaning facilities, car washes, unrestricted dress code. Uh, you can bring your pets along. There are DVD rentals, bike repairs, haircuts, theaters. So these are like out of the world kind of um, perquisites that are offered by Google. So Google's been that what do you say, an industry leader when it comes to the kind of facilities that they offer. And these are something that you see at Google. You don't see that in many organizations, but yes, definitely there are many organizations that are trying to use this model to also match up with Google and then also give those benefits to employees who serve in your organization. So finally, we're wrapping up in conclusion. Three important points that we've got to keep in mind when it comes to compensation. Compensation management is a very, very integral uh, function in the people management process. Not just that, compensation management, you don't look at it as a standalone function, but compensation management definitely has a very strong direct relationship with recruitment. It has a strong direct relationship with selection. It has a strong direct relationship with training and development, with performance appraisal, and with employee management, and so on. So every function in HR is directly linked to compensation management, because if your compensation is higher, obviously all of these functions will be very smooth in their operations and in their administration as such. So paying your employees well has very good benefits. Secondly, the objective of compensation management is to attract the best employees for your organization, to retain the best employees in the organization, to stop attrition, and to make sure that more and more talented and qualified and highly experienced employees do not leave your organization. So you retain them. And thirdly, you boost their morale, satisfaction, motivation, and increase their commitment within the organization. And last of all, firms, as I told you, must be able to look out for all those changes that are taking place in the field of compensation and management. So it could be payroll outsourcing, it could be third party, compensation management, or it could be about ESOPs, it could be about perquisites and fringe benefits. It could be about any trend that we are able to see that's becoming a part of uh, the economy or becoming a part of the industry. So if at all you feel that there is a benefit that you gain by adopting those practices, you can always bring that into your organization. And as and when you bring it, you've got to make appropriate changes in your compensation design, plan, and structure, and thereby able to link that up with the achievement, corporate achievement, or the implementation of the strategy of your organization. That's when compensation will be able to give you the that perfect benefit that you always have required, and thereby your organization can succeed very well. It can hold a very competitive position in the organization, and and employees will also, in the end, at the end, employees will also be very happy, committed, and show very high levels of job satisfaction and performance. In your working in your organization. Thank you.